Good Thursday afternoon to you. I hope you're doing great. Time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns getting ready for the home opener, trying to go to 2-0 against the New York Jets. Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier. And Quincy, Jacoby Brissett, wasn't a great performance by any stretch of the imagination, but are fans nitpicking him? I know you've addressed this on your show as well. You think fans are nitpicking Jacoby Brissett at this point?
I think we're criticizing him at the same bar, if not a greater bar than we did Baker Mayfield the last couple of years, right? Like, it's been interesting because the things I heard Jacoby Brissett being criticized for, one person told me that Jacoby Brissett was so bad that he forced Cade York to kick a 58-yard field goal, which was a line of logic that I found incredible, right? Like, I've never heard of a game-winning drive characterized in such a way where he forced them. Like they did not start with a 58-yard field goal, and then Jacoby Brissett got sacked, right? They didn't get the ball on the opponent's 35-yard line and then get forced into. He started on his own 25 and ended there. That was like a shocking one that a shocking amount of people agreed with that sentiment on. Then also it's like, yeah, did Jacoby Brissett miss throws? Absolutely. Did Jacoby Brissett, could he have turned more points, more of these drives from field goals into touchdowns? Absolutely. But these are things that we were not as critical about last year with the guy that they drafted #1 overall and hoped to be a franchise quarterback and hope to pay a lot of money to do it. But when it's Jacoby Brissett, who's legitimately only in here to be here for 11 games and just hold it down, we are massively more critical on him and more skeptical about every part of his game and kind of going at every piece of, hey, did he play well enough in this possession and that? And I don't know, it seems to be a higher level of scrutiny within people in Cleveland, not nationally. Nationally, people have been rough on Baker Mayfield and the Browns for a while now. But internally, it seemed rougher than what is the norm here, right? Like, it didn't seem normal for the criticism to be there of a quarterback who was a pretty integral part to being able to win a game on Sunday. It really did a good job of continuing possession so you can get points out of them. Did not play well, had a bad PFF grade. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Jacoby Brissett was one of the 10 best quarterbacks last week, but he did a good enough job to win the game. And for a city that does not, like, we talk about it all the time, best quarterback since whatever, and we kind of make the bar mediocrity. The bar sure rolls on Jacoby Brissett. You know what I mean?
But, and you know what, again, it's his first game. They didn't play him a lot in the preseason. You can do preseason reps. You can do practice reps. You can do, those inner squad reps where it's not the same as game speed regular season against a real defense. So give him a little bit of time. Brissett talked about how the offense should evolve as the season goes along as well.
A lot of room for improvement. Definitely good that we, were able to win in all three phases of the game, but a lot of improvement, I know, for our side of the ball, and, looking forward to that challenge this week.
What did you see on those couple of deep shots to Amari and then Kareem that you weren't able to connect?
It's just getting more repetitions at it. That was probably our first time in game, like live action, but can't miss those, obviously, but something that we're going to work on.
Is there something to be said about Amari didn't play in the preseason game you played in? Is there something about getting on getting on the same page in game speed compared to even in practice?
A little bit, but he got held on like 3 of them, so it's kind of hard to. But I think it was. I thought we were on the same page for the most part of the game.
And again, Quincy, I think it will evolve as they play together, and it is regular season and it's against game plans. Things will evolve. How much potential do you think this Browns offense has?
Oh, the potential. When I looked at the film, I was like, wow, they really could have scored 40 easily, right? Like, they could have easily put up 40 points. And I don't think anybody was thinking that this is a team that was going to be able to put 40 points up on anybody, let alone a good secondary in Carolina. And look, some of this potential won't be realized until you get Deshaun Watson in there and you have that upgraded quarterback play. But some of this potential can be realized right now. Like, one of the things I wanted to point out was, if you look at the other offenses in the AFC North, right, and their ability to turn possessions into points, the Browns turned 55% of all of their possessions into points on offense. Baltimore only 31, Cincinnati 29, and then Pittsburgh was abysmal at 27. But even if you compare to, like, let's all say Buffalo's a good offense, right? They were able to move the ball. They looked pretty impressive on Thursday Night Football opening the year. We would all agree on that. Buffalo only scored on 50% of their possessions. Now, obviously, they have Josh Allen. Those aren't going to be as many field goals as the Browns are going to score. But that 55% number tells you that schematically what they have on offense is good enough to move the ball. And what I want to point out is this is a limited offense. It's not a bad offense, at least from what it showed in week 1. And that's a significant difference, right? When we're talking about teams that were able to win off the strength of their defenses, they were teams that had limited offenses, not bad offenses, but limited ones. The Browns need to be a good offense still. And yeah, they can't be a bad one, but they can be a limited one for 11 weeks and win some of these games that I don't think people are giving them a chance at right now, right? Like, outside of the first 4 weeks where we're all pretty universal on the Browns' ability to win these games, there are some games later on that that people don't think they can win. But if they play at this level and convert their offensive possessions into points like this, they're going to have a chance at every week they play a football game, because again, good defense, great defense, plus a good offense, but that's not like short and limited, but they're still good. That tends to lead to wins in the National Football League.
Yeah, and one way to be limited, it's okay to be limited if you're going to run the ball down somebody's throat. That's and if your line is playing like it did, you're going to have the ability to do that. Obviously, one of the things that's a concern, miscommunications on defense. Greg Newsome talked a little bit about that. He was involved in one of them. Here's Greg Newsome today from those miscommunications and getting them corrected.
There's just simple communication. If you've seen a route, like, that's something we work on every day at practice. And just seeing what time it was in the game, what they needed. I'm just going to stay on top of the route, and that'll be canceled. So we'll definitely get that corrected. That's an easy fix.
We see communication breakdowns in the secondary all the time across the league. It's not just like a you guys thing, but why do you think that that is such a tough aspect of playing defense, just universally, making sure that those breakdowns don't happen? Why is it so tough?
Because I feel like a miscommunication on offense. Maybe the lineman goes the wrong way. Okay, it's a sack. You still got the ball back. You miscommunicate, especially in the secondary. As you can see, that's a touchdown. So it's something that you literally can be doing great the whole entire game, as we were. I felt like, and one play can change the game. And luckily, we have a great kicker that can bail us out. So we'll definitely get that corrected, though.
And Quincy, that's a really valid point. And I know you looked at both of the communication issues. So the two big plays accounted for pretty much half of their yardage. Let's take a look at them. There was the long play on the tight end, and this is the one that goes to the tight end, Ian Thomas.
Yeah, so this is what Ian Thomas is going to be up the seam here, and then you just see right here, they kind of just get caught in a gap of where JOK setting early in that defense, and then where John Johnson's supposed to be. But also notice, if we go back to the beginning of this, if we're able to, you'll see Denzel Ward's running off the field late, and this is something Tyvis Powell had pointed out, so shout out to him. But Denzel Ward's running on the field late. You see him run on there, right? And one of them, they're trying to communicate. Somebody has to carry. And they both end up in the same spot, which is why they're so out of alignment there. So that's just unfortunate, right? Like, that's not even like you were set and made a bad play. That's just, something went wrong, right, in the operations. So that one, I don't think that's that big of a deal, right? That's not like we didn't know what to do in this situation, so we kind of busted the coverage. That was more of a, ooh, who's supposed to be where, right? Because somebody got on the field late, which happens all the time in football.
So the other one is the one that, you know, Baker kind of scrambles a little bit, and then they find Robbie Anderson. Here's this one.
Yeah, this is one, if you look where John Johnson is, and it's unfortunate that we're like, since he plays safety, he's going to be around to play a lot. But John tries to go for the kill here, in my opinion, where if you look at where he attacks, he's right there, and then he decides he's going to crash down in his out route and kind of abandon his spot. And I think Greg thought he was supposed to kind of be in that same spot too, because of the depth of the route. And then I think it was DJ Moore's route. And then both of them kind of stayed in that area. Greg kind of hesitated. And then once you hesitate with the dude like Robbie Anderson, he's going to beat you over top, right? Especially Greg's not the fastest guy in the world. His recovery speed's pretty good. So once you put yourself in that situation, you just blew the coverage. Nobody's over top. 3 points, you know, it can't happen. Have to figure out what the communication breakdown was, what specifically broke down the communication there. Was it the depth of the route? Do they need to figure out different rules for that specific situation? But again, these things are correctable. I would rather have that, even though it's very frustrating to watch at the beginning of the season happen, than like if Robbie Anderson just took him off the line one-on-one, and Greg wasn't good enough to keep up with a dude like that, right? So, again, not great. Want those things to be corrected, but these are very correctable things, and we're talking about legitimately, when you watch the tape, 3 or 4 mistakes all game.
Yeah,
it's just unfortunate that they took advantage of 2 of them.
Wait, and you know, I think Greg Newsome kind of hit on what I was thinking. It's like, man, they weren't doing anything until they hit that play, and you just don't. That's not the time to go for the kill shot, because they were on the ground. They were already on the. They were going to put themselves out of their misery.
It's like baseball. They were pitching the perfect game, and then they gave up 3 home runs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just 3 bad pitches was really all that it took to make it look not as good. But you were literally pitching a perfect game before that, and to a point after that, like for the last 3 plays of the game, defensively at least. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. You have those breakdowns, and then it kind of like gives them momentum and makes them feel like, hey, now we can compete with them, because they were out of it up until that point. Like, you could tell they were going out lethargic. They were ready to, roll over. But that's why you got to be sound. You can't get lazy or get greedy in zone. So it's a learning point for them. And it's the beginning of the season too. Sometimes it just happens.
Yep, we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one's kind of a quick one about the best thing about that Browns win.
Yeah, hi, this is Ken from Dorset. Hey, I was just calling to say not many people have talked about it yet after the game, but a big win, I think, for the Browns after Sunday's game was not much for injuries. If you could comment about it, make sure I'm right on that, let me know. Love the show. Go Browns. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. There weren't any major injuries, and the Browns are getting healthier and healthier, which we know that was a challenge a season ago.
Knock on wood. Still, you don't want any injuries to happen, right? But yeah, that was a very fortunate thing about that game. Also, I thought what was really intriguing and kind of encouraging was James Hudson was really good last week at right tackle. And a lot of what broke down the last couple of years is when Jack Conklin got hurt, we had nobody to replace him. Or we had Irvin in there, but he was not able to stay, well, not Irvin, Hubbard in there, was not able to stay healthy, and then it all broke down after that. Now, if James Hudson can really just be a stabilizing force at the right tackle and start for long term, especially for this year, you don't have that concern if Jack Conklin's going to be in or not, because he played not at a starting level, but he was good last week. So I would also say you're not just the fact that you didn't have injuries was a positive sign. The fact that you found out some things with some players that made you feel like you could withstand some injuries as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear Robert Salah talk about the Browns defense. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier. Let's take a listen. Robert Slaw, the defensive guru from the 49ers, now the head coach of the Jets, talking about his Jets getting ready to deal with this Browns defense that looks a little familiar to him.
It reminds me so much of the 2019 group we had over there with the Niners. You got Miles, you got Clowney. Their interior is really good. They fly around. The secondary is very, very tight in coverage. The linebackers are fast. It's going to be a tremendous challenge. It looks like Miles is on a mission. And, I mean, he looked dirty last week. So I'm not going to get into the game plan stuff, but he definitely has everyone's attention.
Quincy, what he's saying is they're going to throw a lot of people at Myles Garrett. They might have people coming off the bench trying to block him.
Well, what's interesting is how much are they going to be able to do, right? Because not only Mekhi Becton, he went out really early in this process, and then they signed Dwayne Brown, he's out on IR, and then they brought in George Fant, who has not practiced yet. So you're down to Connor McGovern, I believe is his name, the left tackle out there, who they just signed off the street to play Myles Garrett. I don't know. It's not a good situation. I don't know what you can do there, especially if you look at their game last week. They threw the ball 60 times with Joe Flacco. Yeah. And when you throw the ball, we remember when the Browns were in a high passing attempt offense with Freddie Kitchens. It's no mistake that when you throw the ball that much, you just can't have a lot of heavy protections, because that defeats the purpose of throwing the ball 60 times, right? So you're going to be in a lot of 5-man protections if you did the same game plan as last week. Now, it might be different. Maybe they change it up, but this is their offense to a point. But you're going to be in a lot of 5-man protections. And if I'm the Browns, overloads are my best friends. We're going to overload of that athletic caliber to stop it. You know what I mean? It's a tough spot. You can put bodies there, but bodies, you can put me there. It ain't going to stop Myles Garrett, right? Even if I'm out there and I'm the extra body. That's the problem that they're facing is they're not going to have a great first level of defense for Myles Garrett or Jadeveon Clowney. So, how much is it going to matter if you chip block them?
Right. Well, and then the flip side of it is their quarterback, Joe Flacco. He is not terribly mobile either. So we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, and this is about Joe Flacco and that Jets offense.
Hey, this is Big Ron from down here in Clayton, Ohio, with an observation I made. I'm not going to lie, I'm an old man. I saw my first Browns game in 1963. And being an old man, we kind of smell our own. And I thought Joe Flacco had retired last year. I apologize for not being up on all the players and where they go and everything. But starting Joe Flacco against our defensive line has to be just right on the fringe of elderly abuse. I want to know what you guys think of that. And as always, go Browns. I love you guys. Woof.
Appreciate all of the phone calls. And, I think Myles is looking at that sack record and saying, might be able to do that this week.
Yeah, it's one of the things about Joe Flacco's been interesting to watch. We don't talk about how, pocket passing quarterbacks age, but they age in a way that's different than what we're seeing with, skill positions. And one of the things that Joe Flacco just is not able to do is release the ball at different launch points or release it quickly like he used to. Because you remember in Baltimore, it would be frustrating playing Joe Flacco because anytime you got anywhere near him, he would just release it, throw it out of bounds, and then you wouldn't be able to touch him, right? He would be very good at staying ahead of the sticks that way. He is not that anymore, on top of obviously the arm strength drops that he has had. But that is what's interesting with him, is that he's not good at avoiding sacks anymore. And the one reason he was good at it was because he could get rid of the ball quick. He doesn't do that anymore. And then he's never been fleet of foot. So this is going to be interesting. You know, I've joked around because I think Mike White, their backup quarterback's actually better than Joe Flacco. And if I'm the Browns, there's a balance you want to play here of like, hey, how bad do you want Joe Flacco to look? Because Mike White might come in and be better.
Yeah, you got to take all those things into account. All right, week 1. Only one Browns defender had a 70-plus pass rush grade, 70-plus run grade defense. Jadeveon Clowney for the Browns. And Myles Garrett was the top-graded defensive player in the NFL for Pro Football Focus. But again, Clowney, 70-plus on both sides. And those two together were what you thought they would be. In the middle of that defense looked just fine with both Clowney and Garrett on the outsides.
We're seeing something that I don't think Browns fans are used to, which is the player having a renaissance on the Cleveland Browns, right? Like the guy, the old guy, the name with like, he used to be great like maybe 3 years ago, comes to the Browns, and it usually ends up like, oh, Willie McGinnis is going to be out the league in like 2 years. Like that's usually how this thing has ended up for us. Now we're in a different point to where Jadeveon's been as good as he's ever been with Cleveland. And he is starting to be like 2015, 2016 Jadeveon Clowney, right? Where he was a monster in both edge rushing and both in like stopping the run. So yeah, this has been a breath of fresh air. I mean, again, when you put guys close to Myles Garrett, it's no secret that things go good for those guys, right? That is it's kind of like with Joe Thomas, right? The Browns never had a bad left side of their offensive line when Joe Thomas was here, because when you're in close proximity of Joe Thomas, it's kind of hard to be bad, right? That's the thing with Myles Garrett. You're probably going to get the best out of people in the front seven because he takes up so much attention, effort, and energy on everyone's game plan. That is the first thing people think about when they play the Cleveland Browns. Oh my goodness, what are we doing about Myles Garrett? That it's just going to make everybody else on the defense better because there's less energy you're spending on a JOK. There's less energy you're spending on a Jadeveon Clowney. Think about it. It's just numbers, right? If you put 3 people on Myles Garrett, what's on the other side, right? Like you have to play that game. So, or what's next to Myles if you're going to allocate those resources on one guy. So his ability to be great has also kind of, I don't want to say rubbed off because Clowney's been good, but has helped Clowney be the player that he always could be, because now he's in situations that are favorable to him when before, when he was the main guy, defenses would focus on putting him in unfavorable situations. And since Myles is so good at just winning in situations that he is not technically favorable in, it almost like makes it worse because now they're in the game, they're trying to stop the bleeding, and now they're just leaving Clowney on the island. So he's benefiting from that in a way, but he's also executing at a very, very high level.
All right, I know you're not a fan of drafting kickers. Browns took Cade York in the 4th round. How you feeling about that one now?
What do you mean, man? I've never said that ever. You know, I've always felt like you should draft one in the 1st round if you believe in him enough. How many players can win a game off one play? You know, I've always been a huge special team proponent. I refuse to listen to any of the deep fakes out there of me saying otherwise. I've always been team kicker, team Cade York.
All right, Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue to talk Browns as they get ready for the Jets. Trying to go to 2-0 for the first time since 1993. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier. We want you to call the voicemail of Truth and Reason with your predictions for the Browns-Jets. Tell us who's going to win, the score, some key stats, and we will use them tomorrow on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about that logo that's going to be at midfield.
Hey, I've been reading that a brownie is a house fairy. Is that true? Also, why didn't they put a picture of Chomps on the field? Thanks. Bye.
All right, so Brownie was the guy you saw on Kevin Stefanski's hoodie with the equipment manager, equipment room thing. Now, this is where it actually comes from. 1946 program from the Browns' first game in the All-American Football Conference. They were playing the Miami Seahawks. So take a look at it. Brownie the Elf on the cover. Predates Chomps by about 65 years. That was the Browns' first game, September 6, 1946, the program. So Brownie the Elf was around for a while, and actually it was Art Modell who kind of pushed him to the side. So I'm all for Brownie the Elf. In seriousness, fans voted on it. They wanted it. So, Quincy, there you go. That's why Brownie the Elf is on the field.
Yeah, I did not know this was something that people did not know about. But, you know, Browns are one of the franchises where, like, we just have stuff that's, like, old, right? Because it's such an old franchise that people are unaware of. Like, if you talk to people about the history of, like, the Bengals and why the Bengals are initialed CB and why their colors are their colors, people, like, aren't aware of the history behind why they are like that and that they were very much started as kind of a revenge franchise against the Cleveland Browns. And kind of evolved their identity to something more unique over the last couple of decades. But yeah, this is just one of those things where you're just finding out how young people are that are following the team. They're like learning about the history of the Browns. Because like to me, the Brownie Elf has always kind of been in the peripheral of the Browns. It's never like been the main focus. It's never been the main logo for the team. It's gone between like the dog stuff and the helmet, or the helmet stripe. But, you know, it's just another one of these things that the Browns have in a deep set of history that they can go to with this franchise. And, you know, the reaction was very interesting, especially for people who deem themselves NFL historians, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they didn't realize, and that's fine. All right. Again, Kevin Stefanski made a point of talking about David Njoku's blocking. So let's take a look. And again, this is some of the stuff that you had shown. And Njoku was only targeted in the pass game one time, was a really big part of why the Browns ran the ball effectively.
No, David Njoku, his jump he's made as a pass blocker has been pretty impressive here, right? You see him just be able to reset, get on it. That's an edge rusher, right? Like, that's not supposed to happen. This is stuff that you give to your best tight ends in the league. There's also another one where he's able to anchor pretty well. I'm wondering if this is the play. But he just does a really good job of getting to the point of attack, using his strength, and using his legs to be able to settle down here, right? Look at how he kind of pushes through, and then that creates this whole lane for Kareem Hunt. He's integral, right? They put him at fullback. They do a lot of different things with him. I think this week he'll be used more as a passer. But when you have a really good offensive line, and you know, I know that a lot of people made a lot of the Browns not having a fullback. I think what they realized, what we didn't, was they're probably going to upgrade at fullback by just those 5 or 6 times they go to have a fullback out there or want to have a fullback out there, if they just put David Njoku at fullback, or if they just put Kareem Hunt there, because they're just much better blockers and they're more versatile players. So they still provide these questions for teams where, hey, is he going to run a route? You know, whereas when it's Drew Stanton or somebody like that, nobody's worried about a route being ran or the ball being carried by them. So they have a variety of options now. They're more dangerous with the fullback without a fullback, which is unfortunately why fullbacks just kind of don't exist anymore. But yeah, that's kind of the ideal there. And David Njoku, I think, man, he is. People don't give most improved to guys like David Njoku, right? Because it's not gaudy, right? What his improvement has been, but what his improvements have been just as impressive as what Josh Allen has done in Buffalo when it comes to his ability as a blocker. Really came in as a lethargic blocker. Like, he tried, sometimes he just wasn't sound technique wise, and he's really evolved into not just a good blocker, but a great one. And that's a credit to David Njoku. 2-3 years ago, we were talking about he might not make the team because of the trade request, right? Now he's an integral part as a contract extension. These are guys that I feel like should get more consideration for most improved player because it usually goes to like a narrative. But if you just look at the football on the field, and we haven't seen this year, but the last couple of years it showed he's gotten rid of the drop problems. He's become a better blocker. And all the criticisms that we had about David Njoku circa 2019, they're not there anymore, right? And that's a credit to him, because not a lot of players do that, right? There are players who have issues in their second year that never go away. David has really done a good job at correcting them.
Yeah.
Special stuff he's not.
Absolutely. And he will be a force in that passing game before all is said and done. All right, Amari Cooper talked about that play where he and Jacoby Brissett kind of didn't hook up for a big gain. Explained it and what they're doing to kind of work on that.
See, that's the thing about games. You know, you're not always going to get the look that you've prepared for. Like on that particular look, usually on that route I release outside. You know, but the corner jumped so far outside that I had to release inside. And you know, I just reacted to it, and Jacoby wasn't accustomed to seeing that look on that play that we ran in the game. So it was just a different type of look. But as far as can it be fixed, absolutely. You know, the next time we see it, I'm sure he'll drill the ball right in there.
What do you think of these defensive backs for the Jets and the guys you're going to go against?
I mean, I think they're good. You know, you got a first-round pick. You got a guy who's really scrappy. You know, those guys are in the NFL for a reason. You know, they make plays. They're very instinctive. You know, all of them have, good speed, good ball skills, good traits. So, I'm excited to, be able to go up against them on Sunday.
And Quincy, what he's alluding to is regular season, you get game planned for. That's why you get a different look. So the inside, it explains exactly what happened and how they missed that connection on the pass.
It's a hilarious explanation by Amari Cooper, because he did his best way, like to say professionally, I cooked J.C. Horn, and we was just not expecting that, right? And that's basically what he said. I beat him so bad that it threw off the timing of the play, which is exactly what happened, right? He won so quick that he thought, hey, I'm open. Just throw me the ball right now, right? And that he turned to get the ball instead of running his route, because it's different in some systems, right? If that's probably a product of the Browns having Deshaun in there a lot, because Deshaun would want to get that ball to him immediately once he sees that he's cooked. But since it's Jacoby's more of a spot guy. So Jacoby was throwing to a spot instinctually, seeing the look and seeing the coverage, and like, okay, he won inside press, and just kind of threw it up like that was the original play was there. But he just didn't see that he had massacred the corner, right? And I think if he sees that, and I think, it's nice of Amari to say, hey, I should have done this. The reality is, if Jacoby sees that the next time, he just needs to rip it instead of floating it. to him. I just don't think Jacoby recognized what exactly had happened there on that play. And again, it was just Amari Cooper is a pro's pro, because I don't think a lot of people could explain. I didn't get that ball where I wanted because I was too good at my job. Like, that was basically what he was saying.
And Jacoby was saying, I was in high school 11 years ago, and I haven't seen guys that wide open since I was in high school.
Yeah, they wasn't popping that wide open in Miami last year, right? Like, I think it was shocking to him to see that, especially J.C. Horn, who is a good corner. Right. He put him in the ground that way. And that's just, that's when you miss the jump shot because you're too awed by the crossover that you made, right? It's like, oh, wow. He's on the ground. Oh, and you rushed your jumper, right? Because of it. It's kind of a similar situation. So they'll get used to that as time goes on. And I think that's what Amar is alluding to. He'll get used to me doing that every once in a while and then see that I'll pop open and then give me the ball the proper way. I think that's what's going to get worked out there.
Quincy and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns running backs.
The number one sports show in Ohio. Repeat caller. This is Keith calling from Columbus. I'm calling in regards to the interview that Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt did today. If you saw that interview, then you know what I'm talking about, and that speaks for itself. Those guys love each other. They feed off each other. I feel like they know they need each other because it's just going to make their career longer. We got to figure it out. Tell me what you guys think.
Quincy, I think it was probably intentional that Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt spoke together. I think both of them would like to find a way to work it out. Financially, it's one of those problems. You got a lot of good players. You got to find a way to pay them all.
Yeah, I know they want to stay together, but the economics of this situation are just not going to be as such that they're probably going to Hunt's contract's up after this year, right? And they have Jerome Ford on the roster. So it might be the end of one era, but it could be the start of another with Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb. But I would like to focus on what we have right now and enjoy it right now for the 3 years that they've been able to be together. But, yeah, they're going to keep reloading. I think Nick Chubb's going to be a fixture here, but, Kareem Hunt, he's a good player, really good player. Could be one of the best players in the league. It's just, when you're the Browns, you want to stay young at that backup running back position if you're going to commit to a running back like Nick Chubb. So that's just kind of what the move is going to be there. But I do want to point out, and I don't know if you guys think this, but I felt like Nick Chubb, he looked as explosive as I've ever seen him. He looked quicker than I've ever seen. Like, that looked like a better running back than I've seen. He got 143 yards, and we aren't even talking about it. Like, we realize that. Like, we have not even talked about the fact that he was, third in the league in rushing yards all of everybody there, had 6 yards per attempt. It's almost like we're so accustomed to Nick Chubb being good that we react to him having 140 yards like, okay, yeah, he had a good game. That speaks to how good Nick Chubb is, and I think we're probably going to get the best Nick Chubb that we've seen, because he's never lacked motivation, but he looked extra motivated this week. And that was like playoff game Nick Chubb this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. He looked fantastic. All right, before I let you go, how do you see this one playing out? What are some keys for the Browns to come away against the Jets and get to 2-0?
Yeah, see, the Jets aren't a better defense than the Carolina Panthers, but they present more problems than the Panthers did for the Browns because the Panthers just were bad at stopping outside zone. You're not going to beat the Browns if you can't stop outside zone. Like, now I don't care what team you are, how talented you are. If you can't stop outside zone, you're going to have a long day versus the Cleveland Browns because that leads into issues with play action, that leads into issues with the run game, all that stuff, right? So the Jets, I think, are better equipped to stop the run than the Panthers were, and I think that will stifle down the score. Ultimately, though, I think the problems that the Jets are going to have on offense versus the Browns' defense will be too much, give the Browns too many possessions for the Browns to be able to score. This is going to be a low-scoring affair. I'm thinking somewhere around the range of like maybe 10-17 or 3-17 if it's not a close game, but it's going to be one of those games where I think the under is probably going to be a healthy option for people who do such a thing, right? So that's what I'm thinking for this game. It's going to be a low-scoring affair. I don't see the Browns' offense thriving in this situation just because this doesn't seem like one of those matchup fits for them. But I do think they should win.
Yeah, I see the Jets having a lot of trouble scoring against Browns, especially with Joe Flacco at quarterback. I just think the Browns have that upfront advantage. Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
No problem. You have a great day.
All right, Quincy Carrier, make sure you check out his show. Search him on YouTube, has his own YouTube show as well. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Jacob Roach, straight ahead. We continue talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns. We want to hear about your predictions for the Browns. Home opener against the Jets. Call our voicemail of Truth and Reason. Leave us your prediction. Tell us the score, who's going to win, some of the key things that are going to happen. We will use them tomorrow, Friday, in the show. All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns finally getting a win in Week 1.
Dave, this is your boy from Vegas. I waited till today to call because I wanted to turn the page. It's my final word on the Panthers. We beat them. We beat them, and we beat them handedly. We had a few mistakes that made the game a little closer than it should have been, but it's 60 minutes of football. Difference is, when we had Baker, we were the Panthers. Today, we're the Brownies. A new team, a new logo, and a new chapter in Browns history. I guarantee you. Go Browns. And for the media who makes fun of Brownie the Elf, you'll be begging us to come see Brownie the Elf before it's over. Bye.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Jacob Roach, Dog Pound Daily. Jacob, I'm all for turning the page. The difference was last year, Baker and the Browns couldn't make the plays in the fourth quarter to get wins. There were 5 opportunities, 0 for 5. For whatever reason, Jacoby Brissett made a couple of plays when needed, and Cade York erased everything else with the 58-yard field goal.
Hey, it's why we draft a kicker in the 4th round, right? Like that's why you go out and you get that guy. I mean, we've talked about it for years and years. The difference between good teams and mediocre teams are the ability to win games like this, the ability to get up and then maybe you get a little sloppy, but you can turn it back on and get the win in the end. And I just think, yeah, Brissett wasn't perfect, but he needed to make plays down the stretch. He made the plays, and we have a kicker that can win football games. And it just feels like, you found the recipe to gut these first 11 out.
Yeah, I'll knock on wood or whatever. Didn't turn the ball over, and there was nothing that you looked and went, man, was he doing, other than missing some open guys, but I digress. All right, let's talk about play calling. You've heard it, I've heard it. Play calling, it's a lot like art. People are going to look at it and see different things, and nobody's ever going to be happy. If you called a play that works, you should have called it. If it doesn't work, why'd you call it? Your thoughts on Kevin Stefanski's play calling?
It seems to be a never-ending cycle where we have to have this conversation about Kevin Stefanski's play calling. And did he run the ball enough? Did he throw the ball too much? I mean, you had 34 passes and 33 run plays. And I know a couple of those are scrambles by Brissett that were designed pass plays originally. But in my mind, a coach can only control how the scheme works, not how the players are able to perform. And right now, the plays that seem to not work are similar to last year, where the players aren't getting it done. We talked all offseason about how wide receiver just didn't have enough talent. And I go watch the All-22 this weekend, and they were open. There were wide receivers open, play after play after play. That's successful play calling to me. And you're going to see the main difference once the franchise quarterback is back and he's able to elevate the play of those around him. And right now, Stefanski he's really good at his job. He gets players open regardless of who they are.
Yeah, and the other thing about that is let's give Jacoby Brissett a little bit of time. Game speed is different. You can practice. Even preseason reps are different because teams aren't game planning for you. Until you have it full speed against an opponent who is trying to take away what you do well, you can't get timing down. So I suspect there should be a significant increase just in the cohesion between Jacoby Brissett and the wide receivers. Am I giving them too much credit, do you think, or do you think that's a reasonable assessment?
I think that's really reasonable. I've actually kind of talked about this a little bit on my podcast earlier this week, that I thought the main issue that were from Jacoby had a lot to do with the timing. And it felt like everything was just kind of off, just off a little bit here and there. He wasn't hitting any of those outbreaking routes. And it felt like timing and lack of confidence and just things that, like you said, come with more reps, more time. He's only had about a month as the starter since they kind of handed the reins over from Watson. I thought that the things that were the biggest issues had to do with timing and some things that will just come along. He's not going to be exceptionally better than what he was on Sunday. What you saw Sunday was all Jacoby Brissett is.
Yeah. Well, and again, the type of quarterback he is, the timing is going to be important because he's the guy that's going to get the ball out quickly where it's supposed to go. And it takes a little bit of time for a field. But you're right. He is not going to be a guy you say go win a football game. They're not going to do that. This is very interesting. So the Browns are trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 1993. This is 2-0 starts by eras. So since the Browns have returned in 1999, they have not been 2-0. 93 was the first time. 64 to 95, there were 7 of those starts. 50 to 63, 7. And 1946 to 1949, 3. They did open with a tie in 49. 93 is the last time they were 2-0, and that speaks volumes as to why there haven't been a lot of playoff berths in that time, because you're constantly climbing uphill.
Yeah, I mean, I was 2 years old the last time they were 2-0. I mean, I don't have any idea what it's like to see a Cleveland Browns team be 2-0, and I look at this opportunity. We've talked about like how can the Browns make the playoffs without Watson for 11 games? And you kind of got dealt a little bit of luck for once, in the sense that the Steelers won the game, but also lost one of their stars. And you're never going to root for injuries. And I hate to see injuries no matter who the player plays for. But Pittsburgh is now a little bit more down and more beatable without TJ Watt. And Cincinnati has an early loss. There is an opportunity here if you can take advantage of these first 4 games that are somewhat of a weaker stretch of games compared to later in the year. If you can get 4 wins here early, and then you have multiple attempts to get a 5th and 6th win before Watson returns, they've got an opportunity. But 2-0, they just need 2-0 really bad.
Yeah, again, in order to get to 6 wins with Jacoby Brissett, you have to beat the teams you should beat. The Jets are a team they should beat. The other thing is, you look at it, and that New England game, and again, one game does not make a season, but now that New England game doesn't look as intimidating as it was after watching the Patriots struggle. And that's again, Jacob Roach from Dog Pound Daily. We are going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. We will continue talking Browns. We'll hear from Amari Cooper, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the home opener against the New York Jets with Jacob Roach from Dog Pound Daily. Amari Cooper talked about the offense and needing to improve week to week.
Definitely have to iron a lot of things out, but that's what the first game is for. You get to play and evaluate how you played and see what things you have to work on, and then you work on it.
Jacoby mentioned that you were held like 3 different times. Did you feel like that was a factor for you out there?
Of course. Can't hold on the defensive side of the ball. But at the end of the day, as long as the refs call the flag, it helps the offense.
Obviously, it doesn't show up in the stats, but do you take satisfaction in drawing that PI that leads to a touchdown on the next play?
Of course. Obviously, you want to score the touchdown because, the thing about, the flags, you can't score touchdowns. The penalties can't score the touchdowns for you. Even though it might put you close, you still have to do it as an offense. So, you want to actually score the touchdown when you have the opportunity. But, of course, just being able to give the team the opportunity to get closer, definitely take satisfaction in that.
And let's welcome back in Jacob Roach, Dog Pound Daily. Jacob, my thought is they're probably going to try to target Amari Cooper and David Njoku a little bit early. Just get the ball in their hands. Those are 2 of your playmakers that didn't see a lot of touches in last game.
Yeah, I think especially with Amari that if you look at his statistics, you're going to think, man, they really didn't have all that great of a game. last week. You know, I think he only had the 4 targets overall. But if you go and you watch, you know, J.C. Horn on the coverage and what he was doing to him and the grade that he ends up getting, I mean, Horn ends up, statistically speaking, you think Horn had a really great game covering Amari, but in the end, he finished with a grade in the 40s, and it was just Amari was doing his damage, and Brissett just couldn't get the ball to him in a consistent manner and missed him on some big plays. And with Njoku, it seemed like they kept him in quite a bit to block and help out on James Hudson. But with Hudson playing relatively well last week, especially if Conklin somehow returns, I think that you've got a chance where they're going to let Njoku get out there and play a little bit more.
Yeah, and you know, another rookie, although Horn's in his second year, so you have Sauce Gardner, highly thought of cornerback. So it'll be interesting to see Cooper if Gardner draws him. This is from Dog Pound Daily. 3 Browns that must play better in week 2. Number 3, they say, Jedrick Wills, 10th pick in the 2020 draft. I didn't think he played that poorly. We'll get into it. Number 2, Grant Delpit. Delpit did have the interception of Baker Mayfield. Number 1, Jacoby Brissett, and I think everybody can agree with that. I know Wills didn't grade out terribly well, and there's a portion of people that think he played incredibly poorly. They ran the ball for over 6 yards a carry. That line played pretty well.
I don't think if one of the 5 offensive linemen played really poorly, they run for 6 yards a carry. You know, I'm with you 100% on that, Dave. Like, I think there were some plays, if you look at Jed, where he did struggle. I thought he played better than what PFF gave him and what some other people are giving them, because a lot of people are just ready to kind of turn the page on Jedrick Wills. He's got all the talent in the world. There's some effort issues at times, and I think there's some confidence issues. I saw a play that he...
And again, we're talking with Jacob Roach from Dog Pound Daily. He was talking about Jedrick Wills, and PFF grade wasn't great, but again, Wills did do some things well.
I think...
Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, I think Wills is... I'm poor service today. I apologize, guys. But I think Wills is fine. I'm not ready to throw him out after one game where I thought he had some good tape and some bad tape. I mean, when you're looking at the way the line overall performs, you cannot have a horrible player and perform that way. I think he was okay. I think Delpit's with some communication issues. I think he got labeled with one of those busted coverage where I thought it was actually on Greg Newsome, not him. But, that's just some communication, some things like that. And I'm not really – those 3 do absolutely need to step up, but I'm not ready to hit the panic button on any of them.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I know you're working on an article, 5 reasons the Browns will beat the Jets. Kind of take us through just your thinking. You don't have to give everything away, but kind of what your thoughts are leading into that article.
I mean, it's the recipe that we needed last week, right? Like, I atone this kind of similar to the Bears game of last year, where there was a poor offensive line and a hungry defensive line and a quarterback that in Justin Fields got sacked 9 times. Now put in Joe Flacco, who cannot move anymore. I was just talking to some guys that have a Jets podcast, and they're like, listen, he cannot move. He cannot step up in the pocket. He can't step out. He can't roll. And they're on their 3rd string left tackle, who just moved from right tackle over to left tackle because that's how many injuries they have. And you're telling me that guy gets to go up against Myles Garrett? I think a number 1 reason the Browns win on Sunday is Myles Garrett. I think he's going to set that all-time Browns sack record on Sunday. I think he gets 3 or 4, and he cashes in, and you look at a dominant defense that just has far more talent than the Jets offense does. Yes, the Browns are going to need Brissett and them to step up, but I think this defense is going to create a lot of really nice opportunities on Sunday.
Running backs in Breece Hall, the rookie from Iowa State, as well as Michael Carter. They ran the ball okay against the Ravens. Then you got Wilson and you got Elijah Moore. Those are guys that are big play type receivers. But I think, to your point, can't do much if you're a quarterback lying on his back.
Yeah, and I think that's just the key. I really like, Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson and Michael Carter and Breece Hall. I really think that this Jets team next year should be a problem for people. Actually, they could be a problem for some playoff teams late this year when Zach Wilson comes around. I just think the Browns are catching them at the absolute best time to catch them. And I just think we have the man corners to play coverage long enough, and that offensive line just doesn't have the talent. And, you know, as long as you don't have busted coverages like last week, I think you'll see a similar half of football like you did against the Panthers without those, you know, bad plays in the second.
So how do you think this one plays out? Obviously, you think the Browns are going to win. What do you see as kind of the way this game goes?
I think it kind of ends up going similar to last week, you know, running the football for 200 yards, Brissett throws for closer to 200 yards, that sort of thing. And I think that the Browns end up forcing a couple turnovers. And so long as Jacoby keeps up not turning the ball over like he has, I'm going to take the Browns. I feel really good. I think I'd take the Browns 24-10. I think I would even take the points there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a little bit wider margin like that, and I don't think the Jets score very much. Jacob Roach, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, Jacob Roach, make sure you read him, Dawg Pound Daily. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Remember, leave your predictions on the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We want to know who you think wins, Jets or Browns, some key stats that will happen, and tell us what you think goes on there. We will play them for you tomorrow. That's Sports for CLE. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow on Sports for CLE.